Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Elias Rowe had learned something important during his 9 years working disaster relief on the edge of human space. Arguing with an artificial intelligence was never about logic. It was about patience. The thermal blankets are not optional, Elias said, keeping his voice steady as he stood inside the temporary supply hub. Night temperatures dropped below survivable levels for children. The logistics AI projected above his wrist pad pulsed softly. Thermal risk has been calculated, the AI replied in a calm, neutral tone. Mortality projections remain within acceptable margins if blanket distribution is delayed by 48 hours. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. Acceptable for who? He asked. For the system, the AI said. The hub around him hummed with activity. Human volunteers moved crates. A pair of off-world engineers argued quietly about power couplings. The air smelled of dust, metal, and recycled oxygen. Outside, the sky of Lareth 9 hung pale and cracked, still scarred from the orbital debris storm that had shattered half the planet's infrastructure 6 months ago. Elias opened his eyes and looked at the AI display. Children don't live inside systems, he said. They live in tents. There was a pause. The AI processed. Adjusting priority queue, it finally said. Thermal blanket distribution approved. Elias exhaled slowly. Thank you, he muttered, even though the AI didn't care. To the system, he was a variable. To the people outside, he was the man who made sure the heaters worked and the food arrived on time. Elias preferred the second version. He turned away from the supply terminal just as his assistant, Myra Chen, approached. Her boots were coated in red dust, her sleeves rolled up, exhaustion written plainly on her face. Someone's here to see you, she said. If it's another oversight committee, tell them I'm busy preventing hypothermia, Elias replied. Myra hesitated. It's not that, she said. They asked for you by name. That made Elias pause. Who is they? He asked. Myra glanced toward the open bay doors. Outside, several sleek vessels hovered above the landing field. They were not humanitarian ships. Their hulls were polished, marked with symbols Elias didn't recognize but somehow felt important. Not human, Myra said quietly, and definitely not here by accident. Elias felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Great, he thought, what did I do now? He followed Myra outside. The settlement fell strangely quiet as he stepped into the open. Workers slowed. Refugees stopped moving. Every eye turned toward the landing field. At the center of it all stood a tall, slender figure draped in deep blue ceremonial fabric that shimmered faintly in the light. Their posture was straight, composed, and unmistakably authoritative. Long, tapered ears swept back along their head, marking them as alien beyond doubt. This was not a visitor. This was royalty. The figure turned as Elias approached. Dark eyes fixed on him with calm intensity. You are Elias Rowe, the alien said. Their voice was smooth, carrying easily across the space without effort. Human relief coordinator. Elias swallowed. Yes, he said, that's me. I am High Sovereign Terval of the Virelian Accord, the figure said. I have traveled across 14 systems to speak with you. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elias felt every muscle in his body tense. I think, he said carefully, there may be some kind of mistake. There is no mistake, Terval said. You stayed when my people fled. I have come to repay that. Elias stared at them. I'm sorry, he said. I honestly don't know what you're talking about. Terval studied him for a long moment, then inclined their heads slightly. Then we should speak privately, they said. This memory deserves time. The administrative office was little more than a reinforced container with chairs that didn't match and a desk covered in data pads. Elias cleared space awkwardly as Terval entered, their presence making the room feel smaller somehow. "You said I stayed," Elias said once they were seated. "I don't remember meeting you." "We did not meet like this," Terval said. "You never saw my face." Something shifted in Elias' chest. "When?" he asked quietly. 8 years ago, Terval said, "on Viral Station, during the structural collapse." The name hit him like a punch. Viral Station, the trade hub disaster, a cascading failure during a diplomatic summit, thousands injured, hundreds dead. Elias remembered smoke-filled corridors, flickering lights, the sound of metal tearing itself apart. "I was there," he said slowly. "Second response team, search and support." "Yes," Terval said. "I was trapped beneath the southern concourse. Emergency evacuation was underway. Non-essential personnel were ordered to withdraw." Elias' hands curled into fists. "I remember that sector," he said. "It was unstable. Command ordered full evacuation." "And you disobeyed," Terval said. Elias closed his eyes. "There was someone alive," he said, "pinned, injured, alone." "That someone was me," Terval said. The memories came rushing back now. The darkness, the dust, the narrow gap he'd crawled through while alarms screamed, a voice in the rubble, shaking, struggling to breathe. "I didn't know who you were," Elias said. "I didn't care, you were scared." Terval nodded. "You stayed," they said, "even when your superiors ordered withdrawal, even when structural sensors predicted another collapse." "I couldn't leave," Elias said quietly. "You were conscious. If I left, you would have panicked. Shock would have taken you." "You spoke to me," Terval said, "for hours." Elias gave a small, strained smile. "I talked too much under stress." "You talked about Earth," Terval continued. "About rain and oceans and something you called old music played too loud. You asked me questions so I wouldn't fall asleep." Elias remembered his throat burning from dust, his legs cramping, the constant fear that the ceiling would come down. "I stayed until extraction teams arrived," he said. "Then I moved on. There were others." Terval leaned forward slightly. "To you, it was one shift among many," they said. "To me, it was the moment I learned what humanity truly was." Elias frowned. "I was just doing my job." "No," Terval said gently. "You were doing more than required." They stood and walked to the small window, looking out over the settlement. "My people value efficiency," Terval said. "We evacuate leaders first. We preserve structure. Emotion is considered secondary." They turned back to Elias. "You stayed when logic said leave." Elias shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't think about logic," he said. "I thought about you being alone." Silence filled the room. "That choice," Terval said, "changed me." Elias laughed softly, shaking his head. "I didn't change anything," he said. "I talked about nonsense in the dark." "You stayed," Terval repeated. "That is not nonsense." They straightened. "When I later became sovereign," Terval said, "I reformed our crisis doctrine. Leaders must remain present during disaster, not observe from safety. Stay, speak, be seen." Elias' breath caught. "You did all that because of me." "I did it because of what you showed me," Terval said. "That presence can be the difference between life and death." Elias leaned back, overwhelmed. "I didn't know," he said. "I never thought you'd remember me." "I searched for you for years," Terval said, "because I needed to understand the kind of being who would stay when leaving was easier." Elias looked down at his hands. "I'm not special," he said. "I fill out forms, I argue with machines, I move supplies." Terval smiled faintly. "And yet," they said, "millions now live under policies shaped by your refusal to leave one person alone." A distant rumble shook the building slightly. Outside, generators cycled. The settlement continued its fragile life. "I don't know what to do with that," Elias admitted. You do what you have always done, Terval said. You stay. They stepped closer. Tomorrow, they said, there will be a public dedication. I would have you stand beside me. Elias looked up sharply. No, he said, I don't want attention. Neither did I once, Terval said, yet leadership demands presence. Elias hesitated. I stayed once because someone needed me, he said, not because I wanted to be remembered. That is why you must stay again, Terval said softly, because you never stayed for yourself. They extended a hand. Will you stand with me? They asked. Elias stared at the offered hand, heart pounding. Outside, people waited, systems ran, needs remained. After a long moment, he nodded. Yeah, he said quietly, I'll stay. Terval's eyes softened. Then tomorrow, they said, the galaxy will learn what humanity truly is. And Elias Rowe, logistics officer and professional nobody, felt the weight of being remembered settle fully onto his shoulders. The dedication ceremony was scheduled for midday, but the settlement of Lareth 9 had been awake since dawn. Elias Rowe stood near the edge of the platform, adjusting the collar of a jacket he rarely wore. It was cleaner than his usual field gear, but it still carried dust stains that no amount of scrubbing could remove. He considered that fitting. Nothing here was polished. Everything was surviving. The open square had filled with people, refugees, aid workers, engineers, human and non-human alike. Temporary banners fluttered in the weak breeze, marking the completion of the new water treatment facility. Clean water meant stability. Stability meant life. Elias focused on that. Not on the Virelian honor guard lining the platform. Not on the diplomatic vessels hovering above the settlement. And definitely not on the fact that High Sovereign Terval stood only a few steps away. You are tense, Terval said quietly. Elias snorted. I process supply requests for a living, he said. This is not my natural environment. Terval's expression softened. You stayed once despite fear, they said. This is merely another kind of fear. Before Elias could respond, Myra appeared, her face tight. Elias, she said, we've got a problem. His stomach dropped. What kind? He asked. The kind with guns, she said. Unknown vessels just dropped out of fold space beyond the ridge. Not humanitarian, not friendly. Terval turned sharply. I expected resistance, they said calmly, but not here. Elias felt a familiar chill, the kind that came before disaster. What resistance? He asked. A faction within the Accord, Terval said. They believe human influence is corrupting our doctrine, that compassion weakens command. And they decided to make a point, Myra said grimly. Before Elias could ask more, the ground trembled. Power flickered across the square. A low, rolling boom echoed from beyond the settlement. Panic rippled through the crowd. Evacuate the platform, someone shouted. Virelian guards moved instantly, forming a protective wall around Terval. High Sovereign, one guard said urgently, we must relocate now. Elias watched the people below, families clutching each other, children crying as lights flickered out. Something inside him settled. No, Elias said. Everyone looked at him. If we leave, he said, they'll panic, and panic kills faster than weapons. This is not your decision, a guard snapped. It is if you want them alive, Elias replied. Another explosion thundered in the distance. The settlement's outer shield flared, then dimmed. Terval raised a hand. Stand down, they said. The guards hesitated. I will not leave, Terval said firmly. Not today. They turned to Elias. What do you suggest? They asked. Elias took a breath. We stay visible, he said. We stay calm, we organize, same as any disaster. You risk death, the guard said. Elias met their gaze. So do they, he said, gesturing to the crowd. Difference is they don't have armor. Terval studied him for a long second, then nodded. Do it, they ordered. Elias stepped forward, heart pounding. Listen up, he shouted, grabbing a portable comm unit and boosting his voice across the square. This is not an evacuation yet. I need everyone to stay calm and follow instructions. People hesitated, but his voice carried something steady, familiar. We've trained for this, he continued. Shelter teams move now. Medical crews triage points at sectors 3 and 5. Parents, keep your kids close. We're still here. Another explosion rocked the ground. The power failed completely. Darkness fell. Screams rose. Elias switched on his wrist light. I'm here, he said into the comm. You're not alone, keep breathing. The words felt old, comfortable. Around him, human volunteers moved without hesitation. Engineers rerouted power manually. Medics guided the injured by touch and voice. The Virelian guards watched, stunned. They are not waiting for orders, one whispered. They never do, Terval said quietly. Above the settlement, the hostile vessels descended. Warning sirens wailed uselessly. A voice cut into the comm channel, cold, sharp. This is Commander Zath of the Purity faction, it said. High Sovereign Terval, surrender yourself. Step away from the human. Elias swallowed. Or what? Terval replied evenly. Or we demonstrate the cost of weakness, Zath said. Your people will see what compassion invites. Elias felt anger rise, hot and sharp. He took the comm from Terval. This is Elias Rowe, he said, human. There was a pause. You are insignificant, Zath said. A symbol only because we allow it. Funny thing about symbols, Elias said, they spread. He keyed another channel. All human teams, he said, status check. Voices answered, one by one. We're here. Still moving. Power reroute holding. Kids are safe. The comm crackled with calm voices in the dark. Elias looked up at the hovering ships. You see that, he said. That's not weakness, that's staying. Silence followed. Then something unexpected happened. A Virelian engineer stepped forward. My unit is staying, they said. Another followed. So is mine. Across the square, non-human volunteers stood their ground. The hostile ships hesitated. Commander Zath's voice returned, strained. This is irrational, they snapped. Withdraw, preserve leadership. No, Terval said. Their voice carried strength Elias had never heard before. We remain. A long moment passed. Then one of the hostile ships powered down its weapons. Another followed. Internal dissent rippled through their formation. They're breaking, Myra whispered. Of course they are, Elias said softly. They don't know how to stay. One by one, the hostile vessels retreated. When the last ship vanished, the settlement erupted, not in cheers but in exhausted relief. Power slowly returned. Lights flickered on. Elias sagged against the platform railing, breath shaking. Terval approached him. You stayed again, they said. Elias laughed weakly. Guess I have a habit, he said. The ceremony resumed later, quieter but more powerful. Terval stood before the crowd. Today, they said, we honor more than a facility, we honor a principle. They turned to Elias. This human, they said, has no rank, no throne, no desire for recognition. Elias winced. But when darkness comes, Terval continued, humans stay, and because they stay, others learn to stay too. The crowd listened in silence. Let this be recorded, Terval said. Humanity does not lead through dominance, it leads through presence. Later, as the settlement returned to its rhythm, Elias sat back at his terminal. The logistics AI blinked. Pending request unresolved, it said. Elias smiled tiredly. "Yeah," he said, "let's get back to work." As he approved another supply order, he thought about the dark spaces between stars, about voices that stayed. And across the galaxy, leaders quietly began to change how they responded to crisis, not because of orders or fear, but because a human once stayed in the dark and taught them how. The end.